This week on Africa Weekly, we head to Guinea, where for the past 2 months, opposition supporters have been protesting a new draft of the constitution that could allow President Alpha Conde to remain in power for a third term. Then we head to Somalia, where the African Union mission is due to withdraw in 2021. But many are worried that local forces will not be ready to take on this role in time for the withdrawal deadline. But first, let's take a look at the stories that made the headlines this week. South Sudan's president and its armed opposition leader agree to form a power-sharing government by a February deadline as they face international censure over faltering peace talks. President Salva Kiir and his former deputy, Riek Machar, signed a truce in September 2018, but until now had failed to respect a cornerstone of that agreement, that they form a unity government and lay their differences aside. But finally, the agreement seems to be moving in the right direction.
We have agreed to create political space between us, to make changes to the previous situations where once there was war, in order to enable people to feel safe and move freely. And if they want to come back from areas of asylum where they currently are under the protection of the United Nations, they are free to do so.
Thousands of Gambians protest in the capital, Banjul, calling for President Adama Barrow to step down from power. Elected in December 2016, one of the conditions of the coalition that brought Barrow to power was that he should be president only for the duration of a 3-year interim government. He now intends to stand for a full 5-year term, a move that has led to the creation of the 3 Years Jotna movement, also known as the 3 Years is Enough.
We made a pact with the president for 3 years. Now those 3 years are up, and he doesn't want to stand down. So now we, as Gambian citizens, are ready for anything.
Mourners grieve in a fishing village in western Chad after 14 people were killed and 13 declared missing following an attack by Boko Haram jihadists. The attack took place in the village of Kega, about 60 kilometres from the border with northeast Nigeria, which is used as the springboard for Boko Haram raids and kidnappings, and also borders Cameroon, Chad and Niger. Violence from the Boko Haram insurgency started in Nigeria a decade ago, killing 35,000 people and causing around 2 million to flee their homes. Leaders of the G5 Sahel nations visited the graves of 71 Niger soldiers in Niamey who were killed in a jihadist attack, which the Islamic State group claimed responsibility for. The leaders also held summit talks in Niamey, calling for closer cooperation and international support in the battle against the Islamist threat. In their final declaration, the 5 heads of state vowed to go all out to improve coordination between the joint force, national forces and the international allies. Niger's president, Mahamadou Issoufou, and the summit host said the terrorist threat against the Sahel countries is getting worse.
La menace des organisations terroristes et criminelles sur les pays du Sahel s'aggrave.
The threat of terrorist and criminal organizations to Sahelian countries is increasing. The threat is increasing in intensity in terms of the attacks by these organizations on our military positions, the assassinations of civilians, particularly local traditional chiefs, and the kidnapping of people in Mali, Burkina, and Niger is happening more and more.
Au Burkina et au Niger deviennent de plus en plus fréquents.
Guinean citizens have taken to the streets almost every week for the past 2 months. They are protesting against a proposed change to the constitution backed by the government. Civil society groups and the political opposition see the change as a plan to allow President Alpha Conde to run for a third term, which the current constitution prohibits. The authorities' first move was to violently suppress the protests. Some 20 men lost their lives and dozens of protesters were imprisoned. But faced with international pressure, the government has relaxed its grip. The authorities now permit the marches, and the main protest leaders have been released.
By engaging in this fight, we expected this. We even expected to die for this fight, because we are championing a noble fight. Imprisonment has only galvanized us.
Political parties are now focusing on the busy electoral agenda next year, with planned legislative and presidential votes, as well as a possible referendum on the constitution. However, the process has already been marred by accusations of fraud from the opposition, who point to delays and alleged manipulation of the electoral register.
We have had changes to the electoral list in Guinea, not for the first time. I have never seen it as disorganised as this. It's totally deliberate, and it is in high population areas and in areas that are opposition friendly.
For its part, the government says it is determined to go ahead and respect the election timetable it has set for itself.
We are still 2 months away from the parliamentary elections, and there are already accusations of fraud. The objective of this ongoing dialogue is precisely to review all the difficulties encountered in the process regarding the parliamentary elections, and, with the Electoral Commission, try to remove all obstacles to achieve an inclusive and transparent electoral process.
A two-thirds parliamentary majority would allow President Conde's party enough room to hold a referendum on the constitution. But the president's own position remains not entirely clear. To date, he has neither confirmed nor denied whether he wants to stay on for a third term.
Ugandan soldiers have been posted in Somalia since 2007, where they form part of some 19,000 troops fighting for the African Union mission in Somalia, also known as AMISOM. Part of their role is training local Somali soldiers, like here on this shooting range, 100 kilometers southwest of the capital Mogadishu. Not all the rounds fired find the target, proof that much more training is needed before these Somali soldiers will be ready to keep the country safe from Al-Shabaab.
If it is done in a rush, and the conditions are, the right conditions have not been created, certainly our concern would be that the gains that have been made over time are lost. That what all these efforts and sacrifices made come to naught. Certainly that is a big concern to AMISOM, and certainly I believe to the African Union.
Somalis themselves fear that their troops are not yet ready to keep them safe, and that the 2021 deadline is too close. Jihadist group Al-Shabaab was driven out of Mogadishu in 2011, but they still carry out often deadly suicide bomb attacks.
Where if AMISOM lives with hope that we think that there will be fighting, there will be a lot of losing lives.
Authorities warn of a potential refugee crisis, sparked by a surge in violence after AMISOM's departure, as Somalis scramble to escape across borders.
The moment you say AMISOM is going, before AMISOM gets out, all of them will be out. Just expect that, no doubt. You go build bigger walls and bigger fences, because they already know the way. So they will come in waves, and they will come. That's a sure deal.
As night falls in Mogadishu, AMISOM soldiers from several African countries enter their armored vehicles to patrol the city, helping Somali forces protect civilians. Tonight, the streets are quiet and people freely go about their business. But the local army and police will need to ensure they are up to the required standard when they do this alone, after AMISOM withdraws from Somalia.
To sport now, and the new Afro-European League of Mixed Martial Arts, also known as MMA, opened in Dakar, with 26 sportsmen competing in the Aries Fighting Championship in the heart of the Senegalese capital.
On a choisi Dakar.
We chose Dakar for many reasons. It's a city that has the capacity to host international sporting events, such as the Youth Olympic Games that will take place here in 2022. Senegal is a country that culturally appreciates combat sports, such as wrestling, which is a very present sport. So we have bet on MMA's sporting potential here in Senegal, in West Africa, and throughout the African continent.
Afrique de l'Ouest et d'ailleurs sur tout le continent africain.
And finally, the 16th edition of the Brazzaville Theatre Festival opens with a focus on the power of youth. The event runs in the Congolese capital until the 22nd of December. That's all from us at Africa Weekly. Until next week.